Hi guys, let's have a look at the market. Pretty quiet few days on the lower time frames with Bitcoin and Ethereum. A trader's nightmare really. So I've certainly stayed out of the markets. Haven't really even looked at too much on the big guys. There's a couple of altcoins that are looking pretty promising though. So we'll dive into those as well. But just at the moment, I've got Bitcoin weekly up at the moment. We've got a little bit of deceleration after our recent moves. Deceleration being this wick here on last week's close. So as you can see, if you look at these candles here, the decent wick and reduction in momentum has often resulted in a pullback in the coming weeks. So that's what I expect now, some sort of pullback. Will we pull all the way back to our bottom at the mid to low 6,000s, or will we go further? Is yet to be seen, but we are getting some pretty bullish signs. We still are in a downtrend on the weekly. We still haven't made a higher high at this stage, still higher, lower highs, lower lows, but let's just draw in some trend lines and a few fibs just to possibly see what we can expect. As you know, I like to draw my trend lines through the body of the candle, through the close, not the highs, but just for argument's sake, let's do it through the wicks. So what we have is even through the wicks. Actually, I'll draw the trend line through the close as well. There's only a couple touches there, so maybe the wick is a better indicator at the moment. But even still, we did close slightly above the trend line on the weekly. Not a convincing close, but a close nonetheless. Deceleration here. This week's pretty important as to whether we push up higher or we actually start our pullback and head a bit lower. So at the moment, we could quite easily see a weekly trend change, especially if we pull back and find a new low at about 7,000 or 7,700 or 7,800 mark. That would also be a nice inverted head and shoulders on the weekly, which would be great, to be quite honest. A rejection of the EMA's 7,700, and we can have a push for the next leg up. That will then give us our first higher low, and we can look to take the next run up around 10,000, which would also create a higher high. So then we do have an official trend change. At the moment, it's looking pretty good, but this wick is concerning. So I'm not calling for the bulls just yet, but the lower time frames have definitely changed momentum. We just need it on the daily and weekly now to confirm an overall trend change, and we can possibly forget the bottoms around 3,000, 4,000, even 5,000 mark. So the next month or two should be pretty interesting for Bitcoin. Just moving onto some fibs now. Let's see what else that we can expect. We'll do a fib retracement first on this current weekly run. So from the highs to the lows, this pullback that we're currently having here, quite often we'll get a fib pullback. It's a pretty weak pullback at the moment. We only just didn't even quite graze the 0.38 fib. So 0.38 fib and 9,500 or 9,400 on the lower time frames. That's pretty good resistance. So this week's close is pretty important. We probably need to close this week's candle above the wick of the previous week. So if we get a close above 9,100, that's pretty good, strong bullish signs. If we just get a doji or a bit of sideways action, whether it's just a bullish or bearish close, I think we'll just start looking to fade off a little bit and have a bit deeper pullback. So a candle like this, like this, after a wick like that is probably not going to be good as far as the bulls goes, and this current run breaking through 9,500. So there's nothing wrong with a pullback. It's actually good. It'll just pull back, get a little bit more juice, a little bit more fuel for the next leg up. Nice trending market. One more fib just for interest's sake. Let's just say we have found the bottom. Let's do a fib extension to see what sort of possible targets we can get now. So from the lows to the previous high, and now this low here. So if we can break 9,500, obviously the next target, we've got some fibs. Previous high at 13.6 to 14k, and then we can start looking at all-time highs and beyond. This may take some time to play out, years in fact, 1 or 2 years. Bitcoin halving in a few months. So these are possible targets. No great coincidence that the previous all-time high lines up with a fib extension. So these would be the obvious target if this is the actual low and we do start a trend change from here. That's the first target. If we do break that, it's fresh air, it's open space. This thing could run a long way and fast. So you'd be looking at 1.6, 2.6, and possibly 4.2 on the next run. So the 4.2, I would expect that to be a parabolic move once things really do get going. Something like this here where it just booms over the course of 3 to 4 months. So that's a very long-term forecast, but really does depend on whether we've found our low at this area here. So that's it. Not really anything more to add on the weekly. Let's dive down to the lower time frames. Here's a daily here. Nothing new on this chart compared to what I just explained on the weekly. As you can see, still lower highs, lower highs, lower highs, lower lows, lower lows, lower lows. So still trending down in the daily as well. We did have some MACD divergence here when we got this ugly inverted head and shoulders. You look around social media and some of the other traders getting around, they called this a pretty clear and obvious head and shoulders, but I tend to disagree. I do like that shoulder, but the head and the right shoulder, they're just two candles, you know. It hasn't got nice formation or structure, but nonetheless, it played out, and if enough people see it, recognize it, and call it head and shoulders, well, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So that's what's happened there. We've broken two trend lines. We've definitely had a nice run up. We broke a very important level, 8,600. You can see here, we just did break and close above here with a few candles, but it did ultimately reject. And then broke back down, resistance, broke above, but just broke up and straight back down again. So we've broken above now, and the last couple of days candles have been holding above 8,600. So we've still got some liquidity and buyers sitting here, hoping that this is the end of a pullback and we can get another run. So if we break back below these wicks and push through here, so low 8s, 8,300, 8,400, we'll see a slightly bigger pullback. Chuck a fib on there. Let's see where it could possibly go. Bottom of the run to the top of the run. So these fibs are possible targets. 8,000, 7,800, 7,700. Pretty strong support level at 7,700. So if we do find support and bounce off here, that's a clear trend change on the daily. Also, a bigger picture head and shoulders too would be a much nicer formation. That's a much better shoulder. Head there. Slightly consolidated, but I'd still call it a head. As long as this shoulder forms nice and neatly similar to this one, that's a really nice inverse head and shoulders on the daily chart, which would be really good. Would also reject a 0.5, maybe a 0.6 fib, so that would be nice clean TA rejection level. Let's hope that we get something like that. This is the 4-hour chart. Not too much here. We've just broken a trend line and tracked sideways. So we've held the 4-hour 50 EMA. Now, if you guys recall the last video I did, we had quite a few pairs with very similar trade setups, possible trade setups. They broke a trend line, rejected the trend line, so it was a break and retest, but it was just holding above the 1-hour 50 EMA, it was, not the 4-hour, with wicks and candles like this. And I did explain that we need to wait for full confirmation. We needed a break of the EMA to confirm our downside. We didn't actually get it. We got wicks like this and it held, and we got strong bullish momentum and another run. So that's exactly the same here with Bitcoin. We did close below, but immediately the bulls pushed it back up. So they recognize this as an important level as well. 8,400, 8,600, this EMA here. So pretty key, crucial level here. If this area gives way, I think we'll just start having a retrace. Okay, I got the last chart up now, the 1 hour. This is just ugly choppiness. You know, Bart Simpson could pump, could dump. We got no idea where this is going. This is untradeable. Anyone trading here has possibly just been stopped out, been stop hunted 1, 2, 3, possibly 4 times, or even if they were short, they could have got nailed on these spikes as well. So for me, this is definitely a no trade zone. I just leave this alone. Not interested at all. I'd rather look at the high time frames and look at a possible stronger, longer term move to try and get an entry in. Okay, I've got Ethereum weekly chart up here now. Not too much difference. Like, it's tracking in the TA and price action is quite similar to Bitcoin, so very much the same thing. Strong bullish momentum, but quite a decent wick there. So momentum is slowing. We need to see what this week offers. Can we push above the previous high on last week? If we can, there's a minor trend line here, even on the weekly. We push and close above this trend line and the EMAs. That's a very, very strong sign. But at the moment, possibly a resistance level here too. Got a few wicks rejecting here, resistance here, support here. So this is a pretty important level. So this is quite possibly a very clean break and retest on the weekly chart. So if we get another wick or a doji here on the weekly at about $170, that should end up being a pretty clean rejection of this level actually. So could also give some clues into Bitcoin's movements as well. So to be honest, the weekly chart on Ethereum is probably maybe more of a go-to than Bitcoin at the moment. Very important level. Okay, I got the daily chart up here now. Very much the same. Lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high, lower lows all the way through. So we're still trending down on the daily. However, we do have a falling wedge here that we broke out of with strong momentum, and we've just decelerated now. But we do have support levels at 155 and 165. These wicks here clearly show buyers sitting there, liquidity just dipping into that, hoping that will hold, consolidate, maybe possibly try and form some sort of flag or pennant pattern for a continuation to the upside. So the weekly chart, an important level. Daily chart also very important. Buyers are still sitting there, but if we can push, if the bears push below these wicks, the buyers will step aside and let nature play its course. So possibly look at a pullback here on a fib. We just did the exact same thing on the Bitcoin daily chart as well. So these fibs here, 0.38, 0.5, might be a nice strong pullback. That will provide a trend change. Not as clean as Bitcoin, but left shoulder, head, right shoulder, trend change, bullish momentum. See how we go. Okie dokie, Ethereum 4-hour chart. Could this be a head and shoulders at the top of a run? Actually looks pretty cleaner than the Bitcoin inverse head and shoulders that everyone was talking about. Rejection, high wick, exhaustion here, consolidated momentum, left shoulder, head, right shoulder. Same thing, we've got wicks rejecting the 4-hour 50 EMA, so we just need to wait for that to give way first. And that 4-hour 50 EMA lines up with the neckline. So we break this trend line, we break the EMAs, we start closing below these wicks, down we go for a downwards correction. So the head and shoulders hasn't formed properly. You can possibly look at sort of shorts around this area if we get decent deceleration and the weekly candle closes without momentum, but it's still too early to trade this. Ethereum 1-hour chart, no difference to the 4-hour chart really. Possible head and shoulders, rejecting the EMAs here. Buyers still holding firm for now. Just have to wait and see. That's pretty choppy, pretty ugly. Trying to day trade or scalp through here, you're probably going to have a bit of a rough time. That's it for Ethereum. Alrighty, I've pulled up the Bitcoin Cash weekly chart here. I've used the Bittrex chart because the Binance charts don't show too much history, so getting a longer term overall bias is a little bit hard at the moment. But this here is pretty much a perfect rejection of the weekly 50 EMA, so I'm expecting a pullback from here. RSI is quite oversold as well. Just trading back down to possibly the weekly 20 EMA, this blue line here. That's acted as pretty good support and resistance here, momentum break and support before falling away again, rejection here. So we could actually hold above the weekly 20 EMA, so trading through that straight back down to the bottom here. Not really great risk reward trying to trade through that, but it depends how much momentum we get on the downside. And also Bitcoin Cash SV or whatever it is just had a massive pump and dump, so this could very well just follow suit on the way down. We'll watch it. I'm looking for a trade entry. Let's dig to the lower time frames and have a look. Got the daily up here. Classic exhaustion of a move and deceleration. That's pretty much gone vertical. These high test tweezer tops, rejections. We're consolidating now, so we just need to wait and be patient as to whether we get a daily pullback or whether we actually just consolidate into a pennant here and look for a stronger move up. But for me on the weekly, it's a pretty strong rejection of the weekly 50 EMA. We've got a pretty clean line here too, look at that. Pull back to here and support on the EMAs, and this pretty epic support line here would be a trend change on the daily. So very, very interesting. I'll actually pull up the ADA charts in a minute because this is the type of move I'm actually looking for ADA. If it breaks key resistance, it's going to just push hard like this. So pullback on the daily to this level is a nice 0.618 fib pullback too. That would be nice. Trading it short back down to this level also has its merits. We'll dig down to the lower time frames. I've got the 1 hour chart up here. I won't bring up the 4 hour, it's pretty similar, but this is actually quite similar to what Ethereum looks like. If this is actually the right shoulder, and as far as the pullback goes, we'll wait for this trend line to break and possibly this 200 EMA here, which is about the same level as the 4 hour 50 EMA. So if we break this level here, we'll find our retrace. Target would be, let me zoom in here. I believe that's the daily horizontal level, approximately. Quite a few rejections of that level. Heaps. Goes a long way back. What is... So say we break the 4 hour 50 here. That's a 12% move to the downside. We'd get pretty good leverage on that because it would be a pretty good confirmation. We could also enter soon before this trend line breaks in the EMA, but there's a lot of risk there in case that holds. So just playing it safe, wait for a break. Could be a couple of days away from that. Pretty good trade. I wouldn't want to trade back below that because this level here too is probably the weekly 20 EMA, which I just explained. So in and out, that's still probably 100% return on investment for that trade. So looking forward to this one playing out actually. I hope we do break these levels. That'll be a nice little slick trade. Alright, I'll quickly cover EOS because we have closed above the weekly 20 EMA, but that candle's it's exhausted. There's quite a strong wick there that doesn't look like strong momentum coming in. RSI has been topped out for quite some time, but that is a pretty nice bottom accumulation zone here. So breaking above the accumulation and closing above it and the EMA, that's a pretty strong bullish sign, but I'm not quite convinced just the way that weekly closed just as yet. Looking at the daily though, it looks much, much better. Just do a fib on this recent run here. So it's just rejected a 0.5 fib now, just pulling back. Like there is already wicks and buyers sitting in around these levels. We are trapped between two EMAs though, caution needed, but we have broken above this resistance level here, this zone. So a break and retest above here, we could keep moving up. So I'm watching this one closely. I'm just not overly excited about the weekly chart, but this daily chart looks quite good. So if we get a rejection, say, of the daily 50 MA, so we got an entry about the 0.618. Have a pretty wide stop, make it a swing trade. Super safe stop. 36% move just to there, and that's not really any specific target. Yeah, this thing could end up... Oh, here we go. That would be a nice target. Couple of rejections at that level. So that's a 30% move. Probably get 10x leverage on that. That's a whopping trade, actually. So very close eye on this one. It's not ready yet. I don't like the weekly, so I just want to see some good rejections on a deeper pullback. So keep your eyes peeled on that one, guys. Okay, this is the last one I'll cover today, guys. Litecoin, Ripple, and Tron haven't really got anything exciting for me at the moment, so I'll just leave those ones out the recording so it doesn't go on too long. But ADA is the one I'm looking at the most, and I'm going to look at starting to stagger entries in probably this afternoon. I'll make the entries pretty wide because we've got a pretty big consolidation zone, and we haven't confirmed any upside yet, but we're starting to build bullish momentum. So I just want to make sure that we don't miss this move. We'll have a small entry to start with, and if we do start getting momentum, we can build on the position. So it'll be what's called a foundation position, an early entry, anticipating the move. What we've got here, we're at an all-time low, or based on this chart anyway. I'll dig up some other charts to get some previous history if needed. But yeah, this is a very nice accumulation zone. We're looking to possibly close above the weekly 20 EMA here, which would be really, really nice. The lower time frames have already moved quite a decent way, but if we can get a nice pullback on those, we'll get a nice entry. So this is a weekly here. Just refer to Wyckoff theory if you don't know what it is or understand how it works, what it is, what it does. Just Google search Wyckoff accumulation and distribution. Very important. This is what I see happening right here. So we'll just dive down to the lower time frames. Alright, got the daily up here. This shows the accumulation zone much better, and we've got this really nice clean horizontal level here. So rejection, break, retest, 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 and we're looking to retest it now. So if we can break above here, we're off and running, I believe. So if we can break this level, we've got a minor level here which we need to take care of, but if we do break that, we're looking at a 60% run on Cardano. So I'm quite excited about this. Very good. So at the moment, we'll look at the lower time frames in just a second. We do need to break this level. It actually needs a pullback, so I wouldn't be surprised if we pull back to the daily 50 MA for a rejection first before we have an attack at this level. It's a little bit overextended on the lower time frame, so it needs a bit of a breather. So we don't want to enter too early, but we also don't want to leave it too late. So we can either set a buy stop just above this level, or we can just stagger some buy orders all the way down back to the previous low. I'll assess the risk reward and have a look at it in the coming hours today, but this is looking really, really good. All right, here's the 4 hour here. As you can see, these two wicks here, initially I thought we're possibly going to go back down and fix these wicks, but these look like dips into liquidity zones to get a bit of fuel and try and push up price, get it out of this consolidation zone. We've got a resistance level there. It's probably more of a zone. So it's a bit overextended now. It needs a pullback before it has another crack at trying to break this resistance level. Deceleration, really nice tweezers there. So this run is definitely exhausted. Don't want to enter right here. We want to start entering and staggering entries down across this level, or if it does actually push and break through, this is where we can get in on a breakout. So not a very good spot to enter just right now. We need to be patient, wait for either pullback or a breakthrough. Just a quick look at the 1 hour chart now. So this is probably this horizontal level here is probably where I'll look at starting to put buy orders. A pullback to around this level would be nice. It's broken through a couple times, so it's probably more of a zone, but rejection, break, retest, 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 and then a break, rejection, and now broken through again. So that's a pretty nice lower time frame support level. So if we pull back to here around 500 sats, nice round number 2 actually, to be honest. So this would be a great area to start stacking some buy orders. Can actually even buy this without leverage. It would actually be a pretty good buy, just spot buy on Binance. So looking forward to this one in the coming days. So keep an eye out, guys. That's it for the video today. I'm not going to cover the other pairs, not overly interested in them just for now, but if they start developing, I'll definitely jump on and see what we can find. So just a bit of patience in the market at the moment. We're possibly a couple of days away from ADA and BCH trades, but Bitcoin and Ethereum, we just got to let that play out for a while, get out of the choppy zone. So thanks for listening, guys. We'll speak to you soon.